Sweet sunny boy, everything. It is early for me. I usually am not moving and grooving this time of the day. Usually I am not in the bed. I've usually crawled out and had coffee. But that's about it. But I'm trying to change up because this week has been crazy as far as heat goes here. So, not just heat, but a number of things happened this week. I mean, just really silly, crazy things that really speak to recovery from very toxic, controlled type situations. So I want to talk more about that and what you can do. If you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Tinkermeyer. I used to have a uh, website I wrote for every single day called No Longer Quivering. I wrote for that with Pathos. I did that for over 10 years. Now I'm currently working on a book about my experiences joining and leaving my old quiverful evangelical church. That's what I wrote about was the evangelical, quiverful, non-denominational, high demand religious organization crew. And Lord have mercy, there are a ton. Okay, so these are just my opinions. Don't bully anybody that I talk about. Don't even be rude to each other in the comments. We're all supposed to be adults, even though some of us are less than adults sometimes. Okay, so I got to talk about this. First, I'm going to start with a little tiny bit of a rant. I think I'm going to definitely start. Almost dropped it. Live streaming on Friday mornings and Sunday mornings because those are times when the husband's gone, everything is quiet, and I can talk about all kinds of stuff. Like soon, if I have anybody that's interested in it, I'm going to talk of the history of palm oil, railroads, Palmolive, the company, not Madge and the Palmolive soap commercial, and bananas, because those three things, throw coffee as number four, have really greatly impacted Costa Rica in very weird ways. And what do I mean by palm oil? One of the big industries here, besides bananas and coffee, is palm oil. Palmolive gets their name from palm oil. Palm oil is the primary thing, which is why I can't use their products. I'm allergic to palm oil. Palm oil from little, I guess, nuts, berries, whatever you want to call them. Here's from another type of thing. And I'm going to be talking about that because it's an interesting history. The more I dig, and if you know me at all, you know that I adore history. I always have. I probably always will. So, okay, I've got that out of the way. I want to talk about something a little different. Well, different and the same, okay? Different as in, I don't talk about this every day, but the same as in, it's a running theme we have here for recovery from religion, from high demand religion. Let me specify that. I'm still a Christian. I still believe, I still pray, I still read. Well, I don't read my Bible that much, but I read commentaries and other people's Bible studies and things. And I still listen to worship music like crazy. I'm no longer, hey, Grace Peter, I'm no longer on a worship team or going to a church. Canola oil is interesting. It stands for Canada Oil. Ah ha ha! Better name than rapeseed oil. They didn't think that rape was good for market. I can't even say that. Should be saying that. They're gonna spank me now like they did the last video. I think it's utterly fascinating about this because if you get off the plane in Costa Rica in San Jose at I want to say the Juan Maria Airport. I can't remember the exact name. And you head south towards Capos, Manuel Antonio, the parks there. You're going to pass field after field after field after field after field of these enormous palm trees that they harvest this giant palm fruit that they make the palm oil from, besides making it from these tiny little seeds as well. So it's just utterly fascinating. The first time that we drove through there, our very first visit to Costa Rica, I was just like fascinated. I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Certainly one of the weirdest. Even though I've since discovered there's kind of troubling history, not so much for Costa Rica. There are other countries that have had some problems with the use of palm oil and children as young as maybe 7 or 8 out there harvesting those stupid things, which is extremely wrong. Okay, so what brought all this on? A couple of things. Let me show you one of them. Somebody contacted me the other day to get some information they need for a pending lawsuit. I'm not going to say who it is. I'm not going to say who it is they're suing, but they're suing somebody. And they asked me about it. Well, they asked me if I had some information, and I had to look it up and say, yes, I probably do. Let me go through my box of notebooks here. I am old school. Whenever I'm researching anything for any reason, I will take copious notes. And you can see some of these have been waterlogged and mishandled and stuff. And I do what I was taught to do when writing for the newspaper. You save the books. I'm glad I did, because the other day I was able to give this person quite a bit of information on the person that they're getting ready to be suing, because I had it all sitting right there. I have to do that a lot of times, especially if I'm writing about a certain subject. Who is she suing this time? Java Man? Yes. Palm oil does contribute to rainforest deforestation, so it's not a good thing. I'm sure Palmolive would try it. And I tried to research Palmolive, and let me tell you something. If there's anything negative, they have buried it deep. So I'm still doing some digging. That's the sort of thing I write down in my stupid notebooks. She's not suing anybody, and nobody is suing her. This is a totally different lawsuit that has no connection to the troll we don't talk about here. No connection whatsoever. But it does have a slight connection to her. So somebody is getting ready to sue somebody, and they wanted to know if I had information on this person. And yes, I did, because I had done my research. I'm an avid note taker as well. Grace, somebody tried to tell me yesterday that this, well, I've had a bunch of people trying to tell me this is too old school, that I should be taking the notes on my cell phone. Where is my cell phone? Of course, drop down on the floor. Drop down on the floor. Here it is. That I should be taking it on this. No way. I can barely see this. And not only that, there is something for me about the writing process of committing it to paper, writing it down, that actually embeds it in here. Charles Nelson Riley. History. Here's some history. The actress that played Madge, the Palmolive commercial, was part of that circus act whose tent burned down in that fire in Connecticut in the 1940s. No, I did not know that. I did not know that at all. Charles Nelson Riley was also there that day. That's a kind of strange one. Have you seen Weird Al's video? Charles Nelson Riley was a mighty man. It's actually pretty funny. It's kind of worrying when you state things like that. Java Man, don't worry. It's a positive. It's a positive. One of the things that I've learned talking about this crap and talking about recovery, talking about the evils that happen because of people who pervert religion, is that you're going to pick up some haters, okay? I picked up a ton of them when I started writing for NLQ, and I still have a ton of them. Toast to you, my haters. And most of the time they're harmless, and I just sling them on Jerks for Jesus and go on laughing. Every now and then you get a scary one, and that's when you start doing some research and you start taking some notes. And if somebody that you are very friendly with that also deals with these things says, hey, do you know anything about so-and-so? So, well, yes, actually I do. So that's what that's more about than anything to do with the troll. Nope, kick it old school. I lost all my baby's pics because of the phone crashed. And for me, writing notes is how I retain the information. Grace, it's how I retain the information. So while I was fumbling through my notebooks looking for my notes I had on this situation and this person, I hit pay dirt on other stuff. Like I didn't realize this. I had written down a pattern for Irish lace. I didn't even know I had that. I'm definitely going to make this. This is a crochet project to be. I just got to get the right kind of thread for it. This was the thing that got me. So the other day when all this was going down, I was feeling stressed. I was feeling like, oh my God, I got to do X, Y, and Z. I got to do this. I got to do that. Because we have friends coming here any day now. And I was feeling the pressure of making everything perfect for them, doing everything I need to do around here. I always have a revolving list of top things I have to do. And so I was kind of starting to freak out a little bit. And I started thinking about a border run. We're due for a border run, all kinds of just stuff. I can't type as fast as I write. Anyway, I'm 54. I'm good with paper, pen and paper. Yeah, Tamara, I think that it is those of us that are not young that are so used to that. And I think for me, like you said, I retain the information. So I was feeling super stressed out over that and some other things and the ongoing confloption that is my family in Louisiana. And I found this list, which makes me laugh. I pulled it out and I could just automatically feel my stress levels drop. Reasons not to worry. And it's a silly list. It's like we have enough money to live on. Nothing could be so dire as the amount of cash we have does not help it out. The worst that could happen cannot be bad or very bad. I'm not alone ever. We have nothing but time here. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to be anywhere. We can do what we want. Just the act of reading this stupid list helped me so much that day. And I didn't even know it. I'm going to post it where I can see it every day. And then I found notes on something I started writing about that I want to talk about today that I haven't really talked about yet. I've talked about it sort of. Recovery, decoding the language of others. That's one of the things that is really the hardest. And if you're dealing with, like I am, some of these people, and you're like, yeah, okay, go drink your haterade in the corner. I'm not even going to address you because try to remember whether it was Key of Awesome or Bart Baker, but one of them did a parody of Taylor Swift's Shake It Off. And they had a line, I treat haters like flies at a picnic. I don't even do that. I treat them like they don't even exist, because if you start engaging with them and you start giving them any kind of attention, guess what? You know what they do? They jump in. And I ain't Jesus. I'm just not Jesus. I try to love other people. I'm trying now to make myself pray for the most despicable people that I know, because in the past I've discovered that helps me deal with the despicable when I actually break down and I pray for them. It's counterintuitive, I know. But the thing I'd written down was, one of the most awful things that somebody will say to you if you catch them trying to put you down, telling you you're less than, whatever, telling you, hey, you're going to hell in a handbasket. And if you're sarcastic like me, you'll be like, girl, I am already decorating my basket. I have a soft pillow in there. I got a blanket. I've got snacks. I've got a scented candle in my basket. So I am all good. I am all good. Somebody said I needed to put a bottle of wine or some beer in there. Yep. So sometimes when these people say these horrible things to you, and they do, they say, people will, and the casual cruelty sometimes will shock you. And the other night I was freaking out over something, and one of my closest friends wasn't super supportive of me. And I was pretty annoyed because it was somebody I've been extremely supportive of through the years. And I started to go all bitch monkey angry with her. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because she just doesn't get it. So finally, I just was like, breathe in, breathe out, move on. So many times people, when they say these things to you and you bust them on it, you say, hey, listen to what you're saying. Does that not strike you as being judgmental or harsh or whatever? The most common thing I keep hearing is, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Sunblock SPF 2 million. Yeah, sunblock, exactly. Um, that's needed in there too. And because I'm allergic to everything under the sun, I probably need to bring industrial sized quantities of Benadryls and Benadryl cream in my basket. So when somebody tells you that they're joking, it is the most passive aggressive way for an offender to try to confuse you. And narcissists do that a lot. They love this because when you try to make them responsible for what it is they've said to you or about you, they go with this, I was just joking, because it gets them a get out of being an a-hole card for free. And it allows them to claim victim status. So if you're pushing back at all, they're going to say, oh, I'm the victim, I'm the victim. And there are so many people out there in this narcissistic world that if you tell them at all, hey, I don't agree with you, even in a kind and helpful way, they will go witch monkey on you. Try not to say dirty words because YouTube has been heck on that lately. So I'm going to be using some strange ones. I used to do that on LQ because the last 2 years that I wrote there and BeliefNet owned it, we were not allowed to use dirty words unless it had to do with the topic. Like there was one time that I wrote an article about Steven Anderson's son's courtship, and the parents of the courtship had started a movie. This is no lie, this is a title, look it up. SHIT filled cupcakes. And that was like the only time. And I hate to say it, the bad little mean side of me just kept on writing about these people in their movie just because it was funny. Oh, Suzanne, I need to hear what you're saying this morning. My narcissistic brother, who I've had no contact with for 8 years, wants to do coffee. Grace. Oh, my goodness. And Java Man, exactly. I love Cornholio. I hate to say it, I love Beavis and Butthead. I watch their show sometimes and just laughed. So the other thing besides the language is you really need to put a stop right in the middle when people are doing these things, when they're gaslighting you, when they're saying things like, I was just joking, or they're flinging crap at you like crazy. Here's what none of you know. The video I did the other day about rehoming children received a ton of pushback from the evangelical world. I had death threats on my life over the stupid thing, which is not uncommon when you touch anything that is slightly controversial. These worms are going to come out of the woodwork, and I call them worms because a lot of them are. And they're going to say ugly things. One of them was like, well, I'm going to contact child help where she once worked, according to her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to contact this place, and I'm going to contact the USO where she worked. It was like, go right ahead. I am retired. So it was actually kind of funny watching some of them jump around and act stupid about it. And here's the thing, exposing the exploitation of children, the possible SA of children, the CA going on, the trafficking is not, it's not a bad thing. It's not unchristian. If the evangelical world, and let me make this very clear, I'm not talking about the Methodists, the Southern Baptists, the denominations. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about those that go to non-denominational, high-demand religious organization type churches. When I'm talking about the evangelical world, those are the people that I'm talking about. I need to come up with a better word for them. They are just out of the box crazy. So many times they say and do so many things that are just unbelievable. And going back to that, I was just joking. They treat that like it's a get out of jail free card for all transgressions, just like they treat I'll pray for you is the same thing. They treat all of these things, rock and roll churches, yeah, where they're singing stuff like my husband loves the song He is Exalted, which was really in the beginning, like 30 years ago, before all this stuff started. He's got one he loves now that I can't stand. But I always say anything by the Newsboys is going to be repeated ad nauseum in churches. And I like some of the Newsboys songs, but the rock and roll churches is what I'm talking about. Rock and roll churches. And I don't have a problem with that kind of worship music. What I do have a problem is when people try to throw rocks at other people for believing differently and not holding their own selves accountable. They according to them, it's all sunshine and roses, and it's not. You know, I've seen behind the scenes. I see what happens. I lived it hard. Newsboys, blast from the past. Yes, Grace Peters. Um, Take me to your leader. Breakfast in hell. They don't serve breakfast in hell. That song, that sort of thing, ridiculous. When the big one finds you, may this song remind you that they don't serve breakfast in hell. So once Peter Furlow left, I was kind of done. Michael Tate comes across as rather arrogant. I don't like his personal style. I don't like how he acts. So I don't listen to the Newsboys, the new stuff very much anymore. Is brunch more of a health thing? Brunch might be because there's wine with it. And what's so funny about the Breakfast in Hell song is it's like, we bid our brother cheerio. You know, there's all these ridiculous breakfast puns in the song, which are kind of funny. There was a song they used to do called Reality I loved. It had all kinds of crazy puns. It was about somebody that ran away and joined the circus. Never a fan. Yeah. I like the early stuff. Let's not forget all the skits done to these songs. Oh, yes. Or the dancing done to the songs were always kind of funny too. And there was just so much. I've laughed so hard watching the Righteous Gemstones because the creator of the Righteous Gemstones was a member of a church that was part of the Presbyterian I was part of when I was quiverful in my rock and roll church. So his church was vaguely, loosely related to ours. And his mother started the whole puppet ministry thing in our presbytery. And I probably met him and his mother when he was yay high back in those days. But I still remember the awfulness of the puppets and the different skits they did. And I was never a fan of that either. And they kept trying to get me to do that since I'm rather artistic and sometimes autistic. And I just was never any part of that. I was like, no, not doing that. Is there going to be another season of Righteous? Yes, Tamara. They're coming in like early June, is my understanding. They're going to be premiering it, I think, at the Austin Film Festival or one of the festivals they have around Austin. They're going to be premiering season 3. I can't believe there's only been 2 seasons of this silly thing. And I can't wait. I was hooked from episode 1 that I watched with my daughter because we were watching it. And the very first sequence when the 2 pastors' brothers were fighting in the pool while baptizing people in China. And the girl was singing, our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven on the. Anyway, she was singing that in Chinese. And Rich Mullins, yes. I busted out laughing when I saw that because that actually happened, but it wasn't brothers and it didn't happen in China. That actually happened on a multi-church mission trip. And why do I have a bug bite in the middle of my back? I'm sorry, my brain is jumping around again. That happened at mission trip in Haiti. And it didn't happen in a big fancy swimming pool like that. And the song was being sung in Creole. So there's so many things from the Righteous Gemstones, a few things that are just right out of, I'm sorry, I'm trying to put Benadryl cream on this, because if I don't get it shut down, I'll start scratching myself stupid all day. This was pretty typical. And so many of the things, the little weird little things that are on the show just happened. Even though I never saw any pastor throw a potato through some other pastor's church window, but I'd like to see it. Maybe it happened and I'm just not aware of it. But what was so funny, they have Locust Grove. Well, let me tell you where Locust Grove is. The church that Danny McBride went to was in Fredericksburg, Virginia. The church I went to was on the boundary between Orange and Culpeper, Virginia. I lived in Culpeper for many years. And our church was like right on the boundaries at a place I don't even want to name because it was the name of the church. I'm just going to call it Possum Creek and tell you that is very close to what the actual name of the church was. If I told you, you'd bust out laughing. It's so stupid. Well, between where Possum Creek was and where Danny McBride's church was is an area called Locust Grove. Now, Locust Grove is a little tiny Virginia town. It held child help where I worked for some time. It also is a huge Civil War reenactment battle thing. And there are places planting churches here. Wow, I really got off my topic today. So that is every time they're like, well, Johnny Seasons is going to be the pastor of our Locust Grove location. I'm like, Locust Grove? And just so many little shoutbacks to that time in my life that I see. And I'm just like, I'm hooked. Even though I got to say this season 2 didn't have much of that. It was season 1 that was just rife with all of that I just kept watching and laughing. I can't get my husband interested in it, but he's going to a place that calls itself that little mega church in the jungle, that little revival mega church in the jungle. I think I'm going to go with him Sunday. And I'm going to sit outside so I don't breathe anybody's dog fumes. But if I go, just observe, because we have had, that was really what's going on with feeling kind of pressured. We've got people again like this guy I'm going to call Amazing Dan, former pastor, full-time jerk. We gave Amazing Dan a bunch of rides this week. My husband took him to get his motorcycle fixed at the motorcycle shop here in my little village that he deals with. I love the guy who runs a motorcycle shop. I'm going to call him Jose, like I call every Costa Rican in my stories, for their own protection, because I don't want to scream out what their real names are. So Jose, I see him when there's rodeos. I see him on his horse. I see him out and about on his motorcycle, and I'm always like, yay, hey, Jose, because he's one of those people that I absolutely adore. And he's really a sweet guy. So many people here are very sweet, kind, loving people. I'm talking about the Ticos now. I'm not talking about the Americans. The Americans that I encounter here, the expat community is anything but. So we're running Amazing Dan all over the place the other day. And he starts bragging about how much money he made stateside. Now, my husband and I were looking at each other and rolling our eyes because Amazing Dan didn't have a damn penny and he didn't have a window to throw it out of. So Amazing Dan spent the entire thing trying to gaslight the crap out of both of us, talking about how much money he made, talking about this, talking about that. At one point, my husband and him started having an unfriendly conversation about Jose in the motorcycle shop. We're in the middle of Semana Santa, Easter week here, Holy Week, or as I like to call it, Explosion Week, because every bed that's available in this town is rented. Hotel rooms can go for as much as $500 a night. Places only go for $100 normally. So you can well imagine. And we were trying to get Amazing Dan to go talk to the guy at the motorcycle shop because it's Semana Santa and today is Good Friday. And it would not be unheard of for this guy to open for 2 or 3 hours every day and then go away. Well, then Dan said, no, I'm not doing that. He has my phone number. He can call me. And my husband and I were like, what? Because Tico time is a thing here and people will not call you. That's the other thing. Ticos won't call you. I don't know why. I don't know what that is, but there it is. They will not call you. And it can sometimes be a pain in the you know where if that's the case. So I've learned call, visit, stay in touch when you're having things done. It's just the way you have to do it here. And Amazing Dan wasn't doing any of that. He was saying, oh, he could call me. And I said, Dan, do you realize that Tico time is a real thing? And in Semana Santa, Tico time is insane. It's way worse. They shut everything down, except for the bars and the hotels and the restaurants. Everything else is pretty much shuttered so that everybody can go lift a, this is Diet Coke, but everybody can go lift an adult beverage to celebrate the birth of Christ, which I think is kind of funny. It's a kind of funny way to just to celebrate it, but who am I to tell anybody else that they can't celebrate the birth of their Savior that way? And Dave was also saying, well, I talked to him the other day. You were there. You heard. He told my husband this and said, he said X, Y, and Z. My husband said, that's not what he said at all. What he actually said was A, B, C, D. My husband is a fluent Spanish speaker. Dave knows far less Spanish than I do. I have enough to get around. I can go to the hospital. I can go to the doctor's office. I can go to the fruit market. I can shop anywhere. I can buy fabric. That's really all I need. I don't need to have enough Spanish to have long philosophical conversations because I'm not prone to that. So he told Dan, Amazing Dan, what the translation was, and Dan said, no, you're lying. To my husband's face. And I was like, backing off, backing off, backing off. That's something you don't ever want to say to Jim. Never, never, never. You never want to accuse Jim of lying. Jim seldom loses it, but he will lose it if you accuse him of lying. And he is dreadfully honest. And the reason I say dreadfully honest is those of you who are married understand that when someone is dreadfully honest, you could ask them, hey, how does this look? Does it make my butt look big? And they'll say something like, well, it's a pretty color, but yeah, it does make your butt look bigger. And as frustrating as I sometimes find that, I got to say now that we've been married almost 35 years, I find that refreshing. Well, actually, we have been married 35 years. 36 is what we're coming up on. Time flies when you're having fun. That is a useful thing because you can ask your spouse and they'll give you their honest opinion. So the other day when all these fundies were losing their mind and I was getting death threats, I went to my husband. I said, you saw the piece I wrote. You heard my video. Did I do anything disrespectful towards people of the faith? And he said, no, you pointed out something that is a terrible problem. You did nothing wrong. So having somebody to tell you this stuff is very useful. It's part of this whole coded language thing. Because one of the things with coded language is you don't always understand when somebody tells you something what the context is. And a lot of times there is an underlying context that has not a damn thing to do with you. It has everything to do with their version of what Christianity is, their version of what they see Christ as they see Christ as this awful punishing person who's going to punish all their enemies. They're going to operate out of that. And I don't see God even that way. God of the Old Testament? Yeah, well, you have to take into consideration that who the Old Testament was written by and for to really understand that it is a historical document in many ways, more than it is, hey, this is how we're supposed to live our life 100%. This is a historical document. And as I've said, I've always enjoyed history. So I've looked at the Old Testament in a historical way, but not so much as a yes, we're supposed to turn this altar into a toilet, or we're supposed to make the stairs a certain way so nobody could look up under our dresses and see we're not wearing underwear. Stuff like that. And trust me, that stuff is actually in there in the Old Testament. So these people, you have to really. So the ones I have in my real life, I'm kind of like when they go after me and tell me blah 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 blah. I was like, thank you for your opinion. Thank you very much. That's what I meant by please no pictures. I meant that you don't really have to entertain those people. You don't have to let them near you. You can always go like that and go away, or you can say, thank you for your input and move on. Breathe in, breathe it out, move on. Because anything more than that is just too frustrating. And like I said, I got bogged down in that the other day. I got bogged down into the crazy that was going on with this, around this. I got bogged down into some crazy going on with friends of mine who were struggling with themselves that I should have recognized that they were struggling and just done a bless your heart and backed off rather than getting involved. Yesterday, I did the most essential thing you must do when you have these people throwing nasty coded language after you. They know is basically an evangelical up yours, a rock and roll church up yours. That sounds like a good name for a chapter in the book. That's the problem. I can't keep writing. Can't stop writing. I keep coming up with stuff. So when you have these rock and roll church people do this crap to you, you just kind of have to. And if it builds up too much, you have to return to what you know is true about you. Like I said, my little list, reasons not to worry that I made myself right. You have to look at who you are at the core. Yesterday, I took most of the day off. I worked on a quilt. I cooked. I made a pizza, made a huge pizza. I made banana bread and carrot cake. I just was cooking left and right for upcoming Easter holidays. Got a lot of stuff sitting in the freezer and or fridge for Easter. And I watched a little television. Yesterday morning, I got up and I went to the beach. I did a beach walk and a beach yoga class first thing in the morning on Tamarindo Beach. I did that. I'm picking up more sea beans, more sea hearts. I love these. I love these sea hearts. They're my favorites. They're my favorites of all the sea beans. I came back. I cooked. I read. I played video games. I watched Les Miserables, one of my favorite movies, and was so blessed by it because I could not help but notice for the first time it's really a film about faith. Jean Valjean going from criminal to somebody that gets it, that is living their life like you're supposed to if you call yourself a Christian. From the time he starts helping out Fantine until the very end, and it's a very moving ending. And then later last night, I got to watch opera on Arts and Entertainment, La Traviata. So I had a day that was just filled with incredible beauty, grounding, knowing who I was. So that has enabled me to come back today and be exactly who I am. Even when people throw crap at you, even when people threaten you that they're coming here, even though they're not, you know they're not. Even when everyone around you is saying these things, even when you have amazing Dave calling your husband a liar in front of you, and you are just like, oh no, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? Even when your husband has spent 3 days now talking about Amazing Dan and all of his faults, when you have those days, and we all have them, it's how you deal with them that's the problem. I don't claim to have all the answers. In fact, I sometimes have very few answers, even when I'm ranting here. But I do know one thing. We all need days where we just don't handle anything real. And that's what I had yesterday. Today I'm going out gardening. I'm working on my garden. The heat wave has broken. Instead of being 97 degrees with 104, 105 degree heat index, I looked a few minutes ago at the temperature gauge and it was 90, it was 85 out there. It's cloudy. We're going to get some rain. I'm so excited. Rainy season is upon us. And when your rainy season comes, you can garden here. You can garden like a fiend and get all kinds of stuff done that you can't do any other time. So I'm ready to garden. It's going to be another day, another beautiful day in paradise, albeit a cloudy one. At least I'm not going to get sunburned. I won't need that SPF infinity. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. I've been rambling, ranting again, and yeah, avoid rock and roll church. Listen to the music if it makes you happy. But a lot of those places, they have no control. There's no oversight. There's no even consensus on what scriptures actually mean. Some of the funniest things I've ever seen online have been when rock and roll church number 1 and rock and roll church number 2 start clashing over the meaning of scriptures, and you're watching them going, you're grieving the Holy Spirit because you're fighting over what that scripture means. You're not trying to stop people from being hurt. You're not trying to help people heal. You're doing the kind of crap that hurts them in the first place, that causes spiritual abuse. And spiritual abuse is something that none of us need to be handing out or receiving. We just don't. Okay, you guys, just remember for your lives, breathe in, breathe out, move on. If I can tell myself that and speak to that into my spirit, it's the best thing ever. Okay, love you guys. Have a great day.